Hey everybody, today we're going to go over how to calibrate a pH pen using Calibration Solution. Now this is with a new unit, but the process is the same with a unit you've had for a while. It's really important to use storage solution on the units. We have a 7.0 and a 4.0 solution, and these two pens here use what's called the 2-point calibration. So they calibrate to 4 and they calibrate to 7. The Blvd, however, uses what's called the 1-point calibration. It only uses the 7.0 calibration solution and doesn't actually calibrate to the 4 at all. So it's easier to calibrate in that sense, but some people would argue that a 2-point calibration is going to be more accurate if you're going for a range that's below 7.0. If you're going for something like 5.5 or 6.0, you probably want to do a 2-point calibration so the pen knows where both are. All right, so on a new pen, crust is typical around the edge of the pen right here, maybe a little bit even up on the probes that are there, and a little bit in the cap. There's a sponge in there, and that sponge is meant to hold storage solution. Storage solution greatly extends the life of the probe. So here you can see, when turn it on, it's just going to say pH, and it's going to flash a number that's pretty ridiculous. Now what we do is we typically just soak it in the pH 7.0 solution to start off with, and let it soak in the material and settle down and get moistened up again. That way it also temperature adjusts and get ready. We'll be right back. So we're back, and we're going to go ahead and calibrate the pen. The pen's reading 6.9, which is actually pretty good for the pen to be reading that right out the box. But we'll go ahead and calibrate it to 7, and all you got to do is hold the temp cal button, which will start the calibration process. You just hold that button down, I think it's about 5 seconds, and the calibration starts, and it automatically will select 7.0 because it's pretty close to that number as it is. And you can see it's flashing 7.0, and it's going to start scrolling the letters cal, and that means it's calibrating. And there it's done, basically. It says end, it's calibrated to 7. And that's the process for calibrating a 1-point calibration with pretty much any pen. That's the process. You rinse it off, and then we're going to go ahead and do the 4.0. Again, what we do is we stick it in the solution first, and then we start the calibration. Now it's already reading 4.0, which is pretty good, but we're going to start it off and just make sure it gets totally calibrated to 4 so you guys can see how the process works. So 4.0, it's flashing, it's reading cal, it's flashing. Now it's going to scroll the letters across, and it'll end in another few seconds. Really that easy to calibrate one of these pens. You should do this once a week, maybe every other week. Make sure your pens are on point, that they're accurate. Otherwise, you could be feeding your plants a solution that isn't the accurate number. And that's the process for calibrating a pH pen. Now, to calibrate the Blvd, it's just ever so slightly different. They also recommend that we soak it in the 7 for a little bit. Again, it just comes out of the box like that. And let's see. Nice tight fit. Sometimes people put these on backwards, and that can break the probe. So always make sure the lanyard's behind on the back side, and just make sure this notch that's down here is aligned properly. They've redesigned it so it's a lot harder to break the probes now if you put it in backwards, but you can always break the probe if you're jamming it into the wrong thing. So I'll just stick it in here. We're going to let it soak for a little bit, and we're just going to be right back in a second. Pen's been soaking for quite a while now, and just want to turn it on and see where we're reading now. So if you can see that, it says 7.3 on there, and it's also in Celsius. We can hit this and take it to Fahrenheit if we want to, and that just holding it down and then clicking it, and it'll reset it back to Fahrenheit, which is what we use. Seems like everything around this industry, as far as these pens are concerned, are set to Celsius to start off with. Now, it's reading 7.2 actually, and we're just going to hold the cal button down, and it's going to start flashing cal. and that's going to take it to 7. And it says 7 right there on the pen, and it's a 1-point calibration, and that's all. It's now calibrated to 7.0, and if we take it out and rinse it off in our other solution here, and put it back into the 7, it should just read 7 pretty quickly. And there it is, read 7. These pens are what we call a 1-point calibration. It doesn't calibrate to the 4.0 solution. It only calibrates to the 7.0 solution. And there are arguments as far as accuracy of 2-point versus 1-point calibration, and so on. But these pens are very reliable and good. Follow the same rules. You have to keep them clean, and the more particles and salts and material in the water that you have, the more they tend to clog up. So the more important it is to rinse them off after every use and use storage solution when you're putting them away. Storage solution will greatly extend the accuracy and life of your pH pen. One last thing I wanted to show you guys is a storage solution for the pH pens. This is really important to extend the life of your pens, and I mentioned it a few times, but not all storage solutions are made equally. There are ones that are much better than the other ones. This is the HM Digital one. I find it's very affordable and really effective. Potassium chloride solution, and it's deionized water. This will greatly extend the life of your probe. This happens to have a bactericide in there as well, as you can see on the label. And just go ahead and put a couple drops of this into the cap of the pen when you're storing it, and put it away after, rinse off the pen. Put a couple drops of this into the pen. Make sure it's moist down there if it's dry. If it's already got a couple drops in there and stayed moist, you don't need to add more. Don't drown the probe in this. It's not going to help make it work better. Just keep it moist, and it will prove to save you a lot of money in terms of replacement pens and make your plants very happy because you'll have an accurate pen.